You all represent, I think, over a century and a half of experience between you in caring for people. What advice would you give us regarding the best way to care for a patient?
See, I just have to tell you the Spirit works, because that's what I was going to tell you about. And that is that one day I was walking down the street. Now, this was before while I was still Associate Director of Nursing. And I was walking down the street with another one of the sisters, and this little Hmong child was crying. He was about maybe 2 or 3 years old. And he just cried and cried and cried and cried, and he was with his sister. And I just couldn't stand it anymore. I said, I got to go over and find out what's wrong with that little boy. Well, I went over and asked the older sister, and in her broken English, she said he fell off the bike and he wants to ride again. So I asked, where was he hurt? Well, his foot was hurt. So I looked at his foot, and nothing was wrong with it that I could see. So I gave that little dirty foot a kiss. And then I said, someday I have to take care of those children. And that was, you know, and it was in my head, I need to do that someday. And of course, the opportunity came for me to start the Indo-Chinese screening clinic. And I said before that we started it because of a grant that was written, and we needed a nurse with cross-cultural experience, what I had. So working with the Hmongs was probably one of the greatest things that has happened to me in my life, because they would come in, they didn't know English, but of course we had an interpreter, always had an interpreter, but they didn't know any English, and they were so dependent upon us to do the right thing. Well, because hepatitis B was rampant in them because of their poor living conditions over there. You know, if they would get a cut in their hand, and the kids were all playing together, so they would just cross-contaminate each other. There was no vaccine at that time, because the vaccine was only started in '82, and it was very, very limited. And so if the mother was a carrier, all those children would be carriers too. So we drew blood on every single person that came in, including the newborn babies. And some of them were just this little. But to take enough energy to convince those people that we needed to draw blood was just terrible, because they did not believe in that, because if we would enter into their skin, the evil spirits may get in, or the good spirits may come out. So we dealt with a lot of those things, and the interpreters were just terrific. So I really admire them, and they're still working at Franciscan Skemp today. And so I think that that is one of the greatest things. Well, would you believe that one day this family came in, and the little girl said, there she is, there she is. You know, she remembered who it was, and she had gone home to tell her parents about the story, about my taking care of that little boy to make him quit. And it was just, well, I think that was just one of the most vibrant things that happened to me, was that, there she is, there she is, you know, and she remembered that.
And Joe, speaking of fundraising, in years past, we really didn't have medical assistance or health care for children, and so there was significant charity demands. And how did the sisters and you work out some of the needs for unwed mothers and others who really needed your care?
Well, one of the stories, if I can just digress a bit, was if it was a charity case that the county paid for, something like that, and I took care of that patient, they would pay me $50. And so usually what happened was, after I delivered the patient's sister would be there, and she'd hand me the $50, but then the other hand came out. So I donated it back.
Sister who? Sister who? Yvonne Jen.
Yvonne Jen, that's right. I forgot. She was head of anesthesiology, but she also had the home for the unwed mothers. And she was sort of they were all under her care. So she took care of that very well.
Okay. So you get the $50, and it really wouldn't even warm your
No,
palm
I wasn't even.
before it moved on.
She's-
Yeah, she'd have it back. So